a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, where religious extremists trafficked in young children to turn them into child soldiers, ripped from the arms of their family, thrust onto the galactic stage, used as pawns in political maneuverings and police police state actions. We come across the fallout of their actions. Folks, it's Campaign Comrades. We're here. We're talking Jedi Fallen Order. It was originally going to be a much more timely episode in that Jedi Survivor, the sequel, was coming out in like a couple weeks from the time of recording. Now it's only like a month and a half from the time of recording. So still timely, I guess, but yeah, it's Campaign Comrades. The whole crew is here. How are we doing, guys? How are we dealing with let's kindly say this game, being the Star Wars equivalent, is basically three Jawas in a trench coat, trying to, play it off as just, everything's good and normal here in video game land. The amount of like just I'm showing my bias already.
Yeah, you are.
But like, but like
Yeah.
the amount of cope that I have seen, like as I'm diving into the history of, I mean, we're only like what 4 years out from its original release. It was a 2019 game.
Yeah.
But it like you see so much like, oh, like this was every Star Wars fan's fantasy. This was so well received despite being essentially a technically broken game on launch. That's purely just its
Well,
technical state,
I mean, I think you're right that it was just so much cope and cope coming off the back of Battlefront 2. And,
Right.
Andrew used to say this all the time, how like, especially when Battlefront was popular, how like you just truly wanted a lightsaber game. We hadn't really had one since The Force Unleashed.
Which itself was great in one hand, but also an immeasurable disappointment in others.
Correct. And, so I think that so many people were just like, yay, I get to swing a lightsaber around. And, we're just happy. It was almost like Pokemon fans that were just eating the slop. The Star Wars fans were just
the
we got a
Skywalker
Sekiro
tinted
parry.
glasses. Yeah, the Skywalker tinted glasses just, can get you so far. The light coming off the twin
crystal
suns,
glass.
Yeah.
No, I've evolved my thoughts around this game. But I definitely think there's a lot of cope. I was looking through some articles from when it was released, and I think it was like Game Informer had one where it was like the combat's so good. And after replaying some of this game this week, I do not think the combat is so good. I would say there's parts that are fun. Like you do feel like you get to wield a lightsaber, which is cool and enjoyable, and that's part of why I
disagree.
really like this. But well, yeah,
I don't like
fair.
the feel. I never liked the feel.
I was wielding a wiffle ball bat, sir.
I mean, there's not the impact you would want. I think that's a fair thing.
Yeah.
And we'll get into the combat, but I even looking back at my own reaction, I can admit that there was some cope to how much I initially liked this game compared to when I was revisiting it for this episode.
Yeah, I think it really propelled me so far in that first playthrough, which we'll get into our histories with the game itself as well as Star Wars games kind of in general. I basically, I'm looking back at myself and it's basically like I had Stockholm syndrome. I was just like, I was being held hostage by this game, and it's just like I couldn't admit to myself, let alone the world, that I did not like what I was doing and did not like what I was playing. Because this was back when, like, I don't know, I still thought I mean, it's 2019, so this is past some of the
it's after all
the Disney sequels.
Yeah.
Not all of them. Was it?
Yeah,
It
all
wasn't
of them.
after. It was not after Rise of Skywalker, was it?
I'm pretty
Rise of
sure
That was
Skywalker-
December
Same
2019. Because
Okay,
that
so it
was
was
the last
just
movie
after?
that it was the last movie you and I had seen before the after times.
Yeah. Yeah, it does say it's a 2019 film.
Okay, yeah, so that was the
Yeah,
second.
but it was December. It was
Yeah,
like Christmas weekend or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's when this came out.
November
Probably
2019.
just before it.
Yeah.
Just before
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
because it was a holiday season. Because I got it for Christmas.
But yeah, let's just like I've got a quick little blurb, just running down, just getting the quick little the
Synopses.
housekeeping stuff out of the way about like what the deal with the game is. Jedi Fallen Order, it was a single player action adventure game developed by Respawn Entertainment, published by EA, and yes, I have here November 2019. The gameplay takes heavy inspiration from Souls-like games in its combat and Metroidvania in terms of its level design and exploration. Yeah, can't keep a straight face. So it was a commercial success and received relatively positive reviews at launch, with lots of praise for its combat, as you pointed out, Andrew, but then also praise for its characters, at the same time drawing criticisms for a weak story, which to me is like, I mean, character and plot are not the same thing. They are not. They can be separate entities, but they are. I guess I'm going to get like intellectual here. They have a dialectical relationship with each other. Yeah, steeple fingers. Like, so to have one, whereas usually, when you have flaws in one, you're going to see flaws in the other. So it's kind of odd to see that praise for the characters but criticism for the story. But then also the biggest thing, that even those who were coping so hard were basically could not help but admit that it had an incredibly poor technical performance and lack of polish at launch. That was really its main criticism.
I mean, I loved the launch month videos of people like clipping through the floor or like deflecting a blow and then getting like pushed through the wall and falling into a void.
Like you're doing
what
like
I
you're
experienced,
doing the
which was
annoying
post-launch.
the annoying fucking like mudslide mechanics that then launches you just into the sky and you never stop.
I mean, I told you guys that I T-posed on a slide and got stuck in a T-pose
hilarious.
animation when I fell off it until I got hit, and then it like snapped me out of the T-pose.
Playing a game that has been supposedly optimized for PS5 4 years after release of the original, and you're still having that. That's good.
No, I had some nothing like as in your face and overt as that. I had lots of minor graphical bugs and glitches and stuff when I was playing again last month in preparation for this.
I turned on my Xbox and like revisited my Xbox, original playthrough of it, and the graphical quality running there as opposed to the PC was just absolutely crazy.
Because you're going off of Xbox One too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, not a 1X, right? Just like a base Xbox
I've
One.
literally the original Xbox One.
Wait,
that I've had since
right?
like 2016, that I bought used from GameStop to play Forza.
There is some useful context, I think, that's also worth looking at in order to kind of fully round out the picture of its production and why we got the game that we did, right? So this was one of the latest, I think the only game in between Fallen Order and Survivor from EA through the Star Wars license was Squadrons. So we're basically, this was within the last two releases of the exclusive Star Wars license that was given to EA after the 2013 purchase of Lucasfilm from Disney. Previously, EA had bought BioWare, the makers of the KOTOR games, in 2007, and after that they had bought Pandemic Studios, the Battlefront studio. So it's like before they even got the exclusive license, they basically had
part of the plan.
They had purchased all the parts that would set them up for that. They are basically now the overarching partner for all the previous sub-licensed games, at least the major ones. But so there's that little technical business bit. But more specifically, I want to take you back in time. Picture this: it's the year 2017. Jedi Fallen Order has been in development for 3 years. And EA has just closed down Visceral Studios, shit canning the often quoted Uncharted Star Wars game. It was what was called Project Ragtag. We get CEO Andrew Wilson and CFO Blake Jorgensen making the claim that, quote, single player games were finished, that online multiplayer live service games are where all the innovation is happening, that players don't want linear games anymore, and those games aren't financially viable in the current landscape of increasingly expensive video game development.
What an idiot.
Yeah, this game has been one of their major properties, has been in development since 2014.
And this is in 2017,
This is in 2017, so it's been ongoing for 3 years, and they make these comments that like, yeah, we have zero faith in the game that we're putting out.
When did God of War 2018 come out? Oh wait, yeah, 2018, shortly after that. Yeah, the death of single player linear games.
What's funny to me as well is that EA also put out like I think it was like a social media post, but like I think people will remember it was sometime last year that they made a similar comment on like Twitter talking about, you know, how basically like who plays single player games anymore? Nobody. It's all about the multiplayer. And yeah, just as Jedi Survivor is the sequel to this game, they're EA's most successful financially, critically, everything. You know, their single player game. Like EA basically hadn't put out a game that was reviewed as highly. This is obviously not going to make as much money as your Maddens and your FIFA. So it's like not as commercially successful, but it's like, you know, one of outside of the sports stuff is like their most financially successful.
Yeah, but how does it compare to the microtransactions from Apex?
Well, and I wonder what they paid for the license. You know, whereas like FIFA and MLB and stuff, I'm sure there's a licensing fee, but it's probably much
there's
less.
that was the huge reason why
FIFA's no
those
longer on the
licensings are
name.
enormous. If FIFA asked for $1 billion, that's why EA said, fuck you, we're just gonna make our own.
Yeah, because
No,
we
I
have the
understand that. So
licensing
what
of the
I'm
teams.
Yeah, and just like the fact that, you know, you're getting games going on each year for the license, you know, those licensing deals are probably for like 10 years or whatever, whereas, you know, this is like individual games.
No, this was a 10-year this was a 10+ year license. The Star Wars exclusivity thing was for over 10 years, and again, exclusive to
regardless I think that, you know, that is probably going to be a higher price tag compared to what you're selling than the FIFA games or the MLB. Like your return on investment there is much lower.
Well, because they're churning out they're churning out the slop every year with the sports games. They can bank on the microtransactions.
DLC,
exactly.
Those bastards.
But here's this point as well that someone already mentioned. You know, they make these comments, and these were the initial ones in 2017. This was immediately coming off of the colossal fuck up of the predatory monetization of Battlefront 2 that was so bad it fumbled the bag for the entire industry as different countries sought to ban the practice entirely. It's like they went so hard into multiplayer, they got so greedy, you know, that they almost screwed up the easy money, you know, like that.
Loot boxes almost went away forever.
They went too far to the dark side, folks.
You know that Bobby Kotick probably went in there with the crowbar and told them to back off.
You're screwing up my bottom line here, guys.
He was prying those loot boxes
the loot boxes.
So we're talking about a single game here, with an upcoming sequel. We can, I guess, talk a little bit though about what is everybody's experience, not just with Fallen Order, but with other EA Star Wars games. I know for myself, aside from the updates to the Old Republic MMO, which was originally developed and published through BioWare before the purchase, but then, you know, was continually updated after the purchase and after the license. That is the only EA Star Wars game that I have not played in some capacity. Besides, there are a bunch of like expansions for things like The Sims. There's like there was a lot of cross promotional things that EA also had licenses to and published. But like I played both Battlefronts, Fallen Order, Squadrons, and then obviously Fallen Order.
Fallen Order twice.
So
You did play it twice.
Get owned.
Is that did anybody else play any of the?
I just played the Battlefront.
Was the original Battlefront back
Yeah.
in like 08 EA or 07?
You mean 03 and 05?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
04
No,
and 05?
Those ones, yeah.
No, these are like the two reboots.
Okay. So I played Battlefront 1, the first reboot. I don't think I played Battlefront 2.
What year did Battlefront 2 come out?
Or
Let's look it up. I think it was right around 2017. It was right around that time of those.
You may
consoles
have
coming
played-
out.
yeah, actually I
played
think
it
I
with
played
me, Andrew.
Battlefront 2 and
As well.
Fallen Order. I didn't play Squadrons,
Yeah, me either.
and I didn't play Battlefront 1, I don't think.
Yeah, you did.
Okay. So I played those three. I didn't play Squadrons because I was not personally interested in aerial combat. Those were the parts of those games that I never really
See,
enjoyed.
for me, the aerial, the space combat missions in Battlefront 2 were, and the space combat multiplayer was actually the best, in my
Did
opinion.
you play the campaign in Battlefront 2?
Oh yeah, I did, and it
I
sucked.
didn't.
It sucked so bad. It was
Yeah.
5 hours. It was like 5 hours long, and it was.
Yeah.
I just like you play as a stormtrooper.
Yep. You had Luke
And-
in it though. Luke shows up.
Yeah, whoopee. It was it basically in my opinion, they've all been bad. Squadrons, I do own. I even transferred it from my PS4 to PS5 when I did the swap. I didn't go very
I can't
far
wait
in
till you get into
Squadrons.
flight simulators.
No, it'll never happen. If
Train
anything,
simulator?
if anything, I'm gonna get into train or trucking simulators. That'll happen first.
The Squadrons in VR is probably the easiest way to get yourself sick.
I mean, it's cool in theory, right? I like the cockpit view. You get to there's the whole thing you're managing like your speed, your shields, and weapon capabilities, and if you up the weapons, you lower shields, and you have to manage those, and so you can obviously go for the ships, you can call it third person view, where you pull yourself back out and can. I always felt like I couldn't see as well in the first person cockpit view, but it was a cool idea. It was nice to see all the gadgets, the doodads, the beeping and the booping. That was cool. And again, you're managing those things, and you can see you're manipulating the levers and stuff. So it's kind of cool. And yeah, it would make potentially an interesting VR experience until you vomit all over yourself, piss and shit yourself.
Yeah, when you go upside down.
And at least that's one where you can be sitting down, so that you don't have to worry about the destabilization.
But I remember being so excited for Battlefront 2. I pre-ordered.
Because we were getting a campaign. That was going to be the first, campaign.
I did the online the beta. I had joined the beta.
Same.
And played a bunch at that point, and apparently it got pretty good towards the end of its support cycle. I remember people saying that it had gotten better, but I always remember I wasn't good enough, so that even when the times that I maybe did score enough points to be able to choose a hero, and obviously you want to be a force
Jedi.
user. You want to be either force user or dark side user, and it would be the grind to try to get enough points in a match to get one of those, to then most of them are already in use, so you've got to pick Han Solo, which is just not as good,
Or just an ARC trooper.
yeah.
No, but I did play it, and
then you die, and then everybody just mobs you, and you
Yeah.
die in 3 seconds.
I played it during the beginning of COVID, and it was definitely better than it originally was, but it was still, it still had all of its, inherent issues with it. And like you said, it definitely made it easier to get those heroes, but once you get in there, you're just getting blasted by everyone.
But so it was because of that very experience that is why I was so excited for Fallen Order, right? It
I
was
think
like,
we all were at the time.
yeah, and it was
Or at
just like, it
least
was just like, oh my
I
god,
was.
like, you know, like that was the elements. Like I'm trying to play this game online. I'm doing everything I can to try to get to use you know, be able to use the lightsaber and have fun and like be Yoda and like absorb everybody's bullets and then shoot them back out as force power. That was pretty cool. But then it was like just for that you would only get it for that little snippet that it was just never satisfying. So I mean, that's not even to mention all like the predatory bullshit that, you know, has been
Yeah.
talked to death. We don't need to get into. This is not a Battlefront episode. But it was because of that that, you know, I was like, oh fuck, we're actually getting, you know, a first person, you know, or a not first person. We're
Third
getting
person.
a single player. I will always make that. My brain will always do that. So when I'm trying to say single player, we'll always go first person. But when we're doing a single player story where I get to, you know, wield a lightsaber, do the things that like, you know, I grew up, you know, fantasizing about. So it was always going to be interesting to me. And yeah, I just felt then held hostage by a combat and level design that I just found completely alienating to me.
I think that the combat would have been much better if it had a Witcher style combat instead of trying to go from software like Sekiro style.
I mean, I just feel like it would you can say that, right? But like it comes down to the fact that any of these elements could be good. It's all about how they're executed, right?
Yeah.
And we can like talk specifically about like the gameplay and the game design.
Yeah.
But before, like, you know, I think before we kind of go into that, it's I want to like talk about this one thing before I really open it up to everybody else. That really, I think, in my opinion, explains why none of this shit worked and why it felt as slapped together, copy and paste kind of bullshit that we ended up getting. And it's the fact that this game began its development as a title completely unrelated to Star Wars. They started building this game as something else entirely. It was
Huh.
never started as intended to be a Star Wars game. They, you know,
Sometimes that works out. That's how we got the original Metroid Prime.
Did not know
I
either
don't,
of
you know,
those things.
I didn't either, but like, you know, yeah, maybe you get for every miss you get some hits, but like, you know, they brought on game director Stig Asmussen, former director of God of War 3, and like he wants to like try to make it into a Star Wars game. He then has has years of trying to convince Lucasfilm to allow them to make a Star Wars game, to turn this into Star Wars.
And
But
this is all post acquisition by Disney.
yeah, this is EA has the license, which all happens after Disney. They the folks at Respawn, they're lobbying Lucasfilm hard. Let us make a Star Wars game. With these elements. But even like, you know, after, you know, they're starting development, they're starting some, you know, showing some vertical slices and that shit. They were they being Lucasfilm were not sold on its production, and they had to proceed uh intermittently with extremely strict oversight. There was, you know, word about concerns over how it'd fold and tie into canon storytelling. Lucasfilm originally wanted EA to make a bounty hunter shooter game, but you know, they're like, no, let's like after again developing something that was entirely not Star Wars, they decided, oh no, let's see if we can take again every popular and successful trend and turn it into a Star Wars game. And that is where we get this game that we have. And
I think it's interesting with the canon concerns that they were pushing for a bounty hunter game. Obviously, that's easier to tie into canon because it doesn't have to do with
it's
your
because
main
it's
stars.
because Jedi, they say it's like, are like the sacred cow
Yeah, exactly.
of Lucasfilm. It's like you can do whatever you want, tell whatever story you want, as long as it doesn't have a Jedi in it, because that's
Yep.
the main lore, right?
Yep.
You know, like that's where the quote unquote storytelling actually happens.
So I definitely think that canon issue was a big issue and part of the reason for
That's why we got the
huge
games that we
micromanaging.
got. That's why we got the games that we got.
Yeah.
There's nothing that is actually tied to the core thing of what makes Star Wars special, you know, or at least that's what it did. In my opinion, my opinions on that now have completely shifted. So you get things like the new Andor TV show, which in my opinion, you know, some of the best Star Wars has ever been, and there's not a mention of Jedi, the Force, none of that shit. And it's, you know, some of the best storytelling that we've gotten to date.
And I,
Back to basics.
Yeah.
And I think that is a reflection of the fact that Disney has more or less admitted they didn't know what to do with the Jedi story. Like the sequels are such retreads. Like there's nothing original. They really just essentially took the original trilogy that Lucas made and made it again in a shittier way. And I think that is, kind of reflected with that, and that, the Disney doesn't know what they want to do with the story in a way that's good.
And I think that's you said it right there. They don't know what they want to do because there's plenty of Legends material that they could have poached from, tweaked it to make it their own. They with the Jedi, plenty of routes they could have gone, but the safest route was just rehashing because they didn't want to mess with the canon that much. But in doing that, they give us this weird fucking ending, where we're all Skywalkers.
Yeah, and they want to
The
hit
real
that
Skywalkers
nostalgia.
are the friends we made along the way.
Yeah, the Andrew Cuomo of Skywalkers.
I am a Skywalker.
Yeah.
I am an Organa. I am a Solo. I am a Chewbacca.
Yeah. So one thing I wanted to point out, this is pivoting a little bit, but we were talking a bit about the combat mechanics, and I think someone might have pointed this out in our chat, but the actual running in this game is so goofy.
I pointed it out in the trailer for Survivor that we were watching on stream. Folks, go check out our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/campaign comrades. But yeah, it's just he literally looks like
he has a rod in his ass.
Like he's walking around with just a huge dump in his pants.
Yeah, or he's prairie dogging. It's just like peeping out his butthole while he's
the animations are just incredibly janky.
There is one cool animation that I like though. When you roll, not every roll, but some of the rolls, BD like pops off you and then jumps back on. And I thought that was
so he doesn't get squished.
Yeah. Sometimes he rolls with you, but other times he like bounces off and then back on. I thought that was cool.
I mean, we've danced around it, so let's talk about the gameplay. Let's talk about the Souls-like combat and the Metroidvania exploration. say Matt is just like just like so
uncomfortable, he's very quiet,
just trying to hold back
language,
just trying to hold back the hate, and it's just no. We've sent the memes. Let the hate flow through you. Bring it forward, Matt. What as our Souls-like expert, how did they fail to apply the actually good Souls-like combat? Because it wasn't just Souls-like combat. There are plenty of other Souls-like mechanics as well.
And Matt, I want to, as before you jump into that, which I am excited to hear, I am curious as to what difficulty level you played on.
I played on the one below the top one, whatever that was called. It was like Jedi Knight,
Jedi
Master. You played Jedi Master.
No, Jedi. There's
story. It's
Yeah.
story, Jedi Knight,
Jedi
Master, and I forget what the Sage maybe. I don't know.
Yeah,
but it's
I played one
know
below the
Master
top
it.
one because I didn't care enough to try it at its hardest difficulty.
Okay.
I mean,
I played on
there-
story on my second run through.
Yeah, I should have.
there's a whole lot in the combat that they just don't get right. One of my biggest complaints is that it's basically a kiddie pool. There's no depth to anything in the combat. What like they're copying Sekiro, which released March 2019, to give you timing of how these released and how I played them. I played Sekiro first. I played the game that has, vaunted itself into the top of my From Software catalog tier list. I love that game. It's a really fun game. And the thing that they do in Sekiro that makes it so unique to their other games is that you have the one weapon, you have the katana. That is the only primary weapon you get in the game. Just like in this, you have your lightsaber, and it is the only primary weapon you get in the game. However, in Sekiro, you have 4 different stances that you can take with that single katana by itself. Whereas in, Fallen Order, you have technically just the 2. Because I'm not counting Split Saber as a stance. It's just a powered up attack you get to do for free damage in the final boss fight, which is how I beat that.
Same.
Then you're not even touching on the fact that like Sekiro has, the Senpo arts, which are like a bare-fisted combat style. So that's like something that doesn't get touched on at all. We don't have anything beyond just the saber. And then what Sekiro has, it has the prosthetic tool, which gives you a whole range of different weapons, abilities, and things you can use in combat. And what they're trying to do in Fallen Order is they're trying to copy that with the force powers. But you get 4 of them.
Yeah.
You get like
push,
pull, slow,
freeze, and what is the
is
other
it just
one?
the 3?
I think it's just the 3.
I think it's just the 3.
Yeah, even worse.
Yeah.
I was giving it more credit than it deserved.
Yeah, because it's RB
Yeah, it's
RT and then
push, pull, stop, / slow.
Yeah.
Um,
Then
So
like the jump,
it
if you want to
lacks
call
in-
that a force power.
Yeah, because I'm trying to think if there was definitely a 4th like flashback where you go back to your training and learn as you unlock your abilities, and it's the double jump.
Yeah.
So nope, that doesn't count.
Oh,
that's
boy.
that's a
In the wall
traversal.
run.
That's a traversal mechanic. Oh yeah, in the wall run.
Yeah.
Those are both traversal
Those are
mechanics.
the only 3 combat force mechanics.
So you have less options to pick through, which can be fine. You can have less choices and you can flesh them out into a way that makes for a deep and meaningful combat experience. But what they miss then next is that they don't make it feel good. It's mushy. I called it that in the chat. The combat feels there's not a distinct feeling to the combat when your animations end and when you can start your next one. There's very mushy boundaries on your buffer on
it's
when
incredibly-
you're
I
rolling
always-
and dodging and when you can swing again.
I always said it's like it was very floaty, and it's like your control, your body position. Like, yeah, you have this one move where you hold triangle or Y or whatever, depending on your controller scheme, and you
leap at them.
You dash forward and do like an uppercut.
That was such
or
a
whatever.
goofy attack.
yeah.
But like there's no real control over say your distance of how you can close effectively with the
Yeah.
combatant. I found the
It was a
parry
great
windows to
button
be-
mash game.
I found
I'll give it-
the parry windows
I'll give
to
it
be
one piece of credit
very erratic.
is that the only thing that felt decent in the combat was blaster deflection.
Yes.
Yep.
And the only thing I have against
agree.
that is you could also just button mash that and you could just get through it without like
Yep.
there was no punishment really. Like in Sekiro, if you over deflect too much, if you just spam it, you get counter damage when the attack goes through and you take more damage
Yeah,
because
it's
you were
like you don't get punished
opening
in this
yourself
one.
up.
You don't get punished this one. The only thing you get is like if you time it correctly, it goes back and hits them. Otherwise, you just
you're
send
just
it off
deflecting.
in a random direction. But like, yeah, I'd say that felt satisfying because of the haptics and the sound design.
Mhm.
Like you get a satisfying little haptic buzz
And like a
when you hit
pause
it,
in
and there's like a good kind of ping sound as you deflect it.
And like deflecting the
can go a
guys
lot.
with the heavy assault
Yeah.
like the minigun.
Blaster. Yeah.
Like that always felt pretty decent. That felt consistent. But when it came to like the melee combat, there was just so much inconsistency in your opponent's animations, especially the animals. The animals
Yes.
tended to just attack, and not like have a wind up to a lot of their stuff.
I don't want
Which makes
opponents to like overly telegraph, but there needs to be actual patterns that you can learn.
Well, that's how Souls like combat works. Is it's not like there's not always a big animation for a swing, but there's things that tell you like, oh, he's coming in for a swipe now. Like he's starting an animation to attack of some sort. I should like be
You
ready
have to
to
learn.
defend.
It's like you have to
Yeah.
learn these things.
Yes.
They aren't just like immediately
They don't like flash red. It's like it's attack time, so you know to like block.
Well, they do flash red if on
Well, that's
like
just talking
Well, yeah, that's
one
the
that you can't
unblockable.
block.
I say he's talking about in terms of say Souls like doesn't do any of that
Yeah.
shit. Doesn't do any
Oh,
of that
got
fucking
it.
shit.
Yeah.
Well, Sekiro did have a kanji that would appear above certain attacks
for
that,
unblockable.
yeah.
Okay. So never
And
mind.
that's because when you base your combat system around deflections, you do need something to tell people when it is time to stop deflecting and dodge.
I think something that you've all mentioned already about the combat that I wanted to flesh out a little bit more. It just feels pretty weightless. There's just no heft.
impact.
There's no impact. And I really, upon revisiting this game, the force powers are really not.
I mean, once you get
trash.
force
They're
push, the game's
trash.
over because you can just knock
Mhm.
people over.
Yep.
Yeah,
Just
but
push them off the ledge.
Or like even beyond that, if you empower it, you can just you can permanently
Yeah.
stun big enemies, which just gives you chances to just whittle down health for free
and like that felt
and then restore your force to push them down again. It's a vicious cycle of cheese.
agreed, and it just doesn't feel there's not enough impact in general in what you can do with the force. Like you can't actually defeat an enemy with the force. You can't outside of pushing them off a ledge or something like that. But there's no force.
Sometimes when you push them off a ledge, they get stuck on geometry and don't die.
Yeah,
Which is super cool.
but
Well, and Andrew, to that point, I think it's partially because in the canon, we don't see many like good Jedi force powers. It's always the Sith Lord that is the one that is like the cool, like the choking, the lightning, and things like that. Like they are very much like more passive and defensive powers when they're from the Jedi. And I think definitely as part of canon, because we saw in the new sequel trilogy, like introducing the communing with animals, which is something that we're getting in Survivor and things like that. But it's like these kind of weak, passive, defensive, not so fun and flashy force powers like you get in Force Unleashed.
so
I do quite enjoy how for the sequel they have like not even like bucked the trend of like, oh yeah, we're just copying the most recent From Software. Like that they had fast travel on a horse, you're gonna have horses and fast travel. Like we're gonna put that in there too.
You wanted the grapple from Sekiro. We
Yeah, here you
developed the
go.
game too late to realize that. Here's your Sekiro grapple.
but
They tried to get away with the force pull being that, but it's not the same. It doesn't work very well.
yeah,
I
and
found the force pull.
For combat stuff.
Yeah,
I was talking even just more for the traversal
Traversal.
aspect of it.
yeah.
the one thing with the force powers though, and Mike, a fair point about the canon and what Jedi use the force for versus the Sith, but like I'm playing Control right now, and it would have been
Control is way better force powers.
way better force powers. Like just even having the ability to manipulate the environment with the force and move things or throw things, like that should have been easily included.
Yeah.
And not having the ability
Agreed.
to do that
No,
really
there are
limits.
you
the
only have like
usefulness of
the
it.
you only have like the
Conveniently placed trash cans.
yeah, or like like the specific vines or like the fan blades to slow time down. They're very
Or like breaking through things
yeah,
Right.
it's
to
very
unlock a level.
very minimal
And
say
that's
kind of immersive environmental design.
and that's all around, and that's more all focused on map unlocking and getting access to places. It's not really
Right.
included in the combat at all.
Yeah, well, let's talk about then the next part, the Metroidvania aspect. The
map sucks.
traversal, the exploration, the maps fucking blow. The whole driving force behind exploration is non-fucking existent. I don't need 30 million fucking shitty ponchos. Like, there's no reason.
Brother, the ponchos and the saber stuff were so.
That's the only reason to explore. There's nothing else. You don't get extra skills, new equipment, anything like that. It's purely cosmetic. There is nothing, story wise that
There's like a couple hidden things that'll raise your health and your force powers.
Yeah.
like there's like the stim crates, which
But
is
you need to
having
find so many of them.
that's having a meme resurgence that like people are just discovering now that you could up your stim count thing. But like, oh my god, it's just like I tend to bounce off of Metroidvania style level design to begin with. I don't like backtracking as a general thing. I like forward momentum. I don't like to feel like that I'm just like having to retread, and I don't like to have to mentally keep track of, oh, here's a door that I couldn't unlock. Like, here are 50 doors I can't unlock on this first planet.
Well,
I need to go to 6 other planets to unlock the power to come back and do that thing, and then to find out that there's nothing interesting behind those doors.
And then when you're able to unlock it and you have to use the map to find it, the map is the most confusing thing in the fucking world. It is
I diverge a little bit there. I didn't find the map to be that bad overall. I found it just usable enough that I could figure out my way around. I didn't like that, like how they use it, with like how it comes from BD. Because there are times when you open your map and you are not in a space big enough to use it, and there's some graphical issues that pop up.
They're not unique
true.
here as well. I find the same issue with Metroid specific maps. It's like the graphic design for it is so minimalistic that it's useless to me. I can't tell what floor I'm on. I can't tell that this square corresponds to this room. Like, you got to give me some type of landmark thing to orient myself around. Just holographic fucking blocks mean nothing to me.
Well, and the fact that I couldn't drop a pin to where I wanted to go, I don't even need to like have the map directing me up top. I just want to have a pin so that I can remember where I was looking when I fucking open up the map again. And I don't have to like go through the whole process of figuring out where I need to go.
Yeah, I saw the map itself is just blocks. It, like Ben said, that to me is just like, it's just a bunch of different opaquely colored blocks, and like this one that's slightly darker is where you are, and like
my biggest issue just came down to that, like, the maps were so unnecessarily spread typically. Like the spread, and like we were saying before, the exploration reward wasn't good enough to like warrant me wanting to go explore like all of that spread. And like, usually when you do a good Metroidvania, you end up with a very tight loop of levels and areas that like relatively funnels you in a direction till you get your traversal gimmick. And then it'll be like, okay, now you can choose to go back and like you've unlocked shortcuts now because you have your new traversal mechanic, and you can check out stuff on this level that has been previously inaccessible to you.
Which is why like the hallway kind of design of Metroid makes sense and works well. The corridor mapping of that, like, again, creating shortcuts like that for these worlds are semi-open. In that sense, it becomes too much to keep track of.
Can't find or figure out anything, or again, remember, like, you've got the multiple worlds that
I went to go do exploration at one point, as you know, I would, to try to like enjoy these games. And I did what's that first Bogano, yeah. I did like a chunk of Bogano, and I was just sitting there. I was like, this is like, these threads don't bring me to like unique places or new things. It's just like a one-off, like, oh, here's a chest, and now you can drop down to a place you've already been.
Here's a gross poncho.
Yeah.
An olive green instead of puke green. Woohoo.
Could have given me option for hair color so I could change his hair color.
Here's another we didn't like actually like in our previous discussions or even at the beginning of the pod, we didn't like mention this, but getting into traversal specifically, another game and franchise that they take inspiration from and do in a really bad way
Uncharted
is Sonic. The fucking take like Kashyyyk, where you're going on like there's like this stretch where you're doing like you're going down the you're going down the mudslide and then wall runs and then the jumper pads that are literally just going boing 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 boing. It's literally Sonic. It's literally Sonic, and it's just done in such
a lot of
boring
those
way.
strung together sections, especially the wall running for me felt like really bad.
Well, and on that,
the wall running animation feels weird, and the timing on it, like how long you can still stick to the wall even though you're starting to slide down it, feels weird.
And not only that, like just talking about the opening scene where you're doing all that climbing, even the climbing feels so weird. Like
because they want it to feel better when you get the climbing clause later. So a great game mechanic is to make things feel shitty so when you get the upgrade it feels good, right? Instead of having things that feel good
and then feel better.
Yeah. And that fucking opening scene is like 20 minutes of that climbing, the Uncharted climbing, the Uncharted like sliding, and then beating some enemies, whatever, along the way. It is just so brutal to get through.
I personally died more to missing jumps and forgetting to hit L2 to climb.
In the underground ice caves, I died so many times jumping incredibly.
Yeah, the L2 LT function of that was so annoying.
The jumping off of sliding is a really like the momentum is funky. Something's really wrong with the physics engine on that.
There's one in a Zepho temple that you gotta jump off of it and grab a rope. And you have to time it absolutely perfect, or like not even timing, position it exactly perfectly. There's no leeway whatsoever. You can't use a force power to grab it. It was I died probably 10 times trying to line it up perfectly.
No, I've been there. I know exactly which one you're talking about.
It's incredibly frustrating. Should we talk about the plot?
What plot?
Like the characters, I want to get everybody's thoughts on the characters.
My initial thought on the pilot guy, Grease nuts. Yeah, Grease nuts. It should have been Danny DeVito.
I mean, he's shaped somewhat like Danny DeVito.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, and it should have been a Philippides type Danny DeVito character.
Hell yeah. I think the story itself, like the main beats are fine in my opinion. I love BD. I think it's actually a good.
Yeah, but he's designed to make the things in your brain fire.
Yeah,
he's designed to make the good chemicals come out.
I don't disagree,
because he makes the cute beeping and booping. No, but he is definitely a good addition to the droid family, because he's literally just a little dog.
Yeah.
He's like a little Pokemon, like a little Pikachu on your shoulder.
All right, now settle down. That's next month.
No, but I
mean, it was like the rise of that actress. Is her name Siri?
That's the character, Seer Junda. Yeah. She's in every single
actress who does the motion cap for that. I feel like that's the rise, because I've seen her in like 4 or 5 different game since then.
I mean, good for her, get her bag, like, get the work.
And she got that Forspoken money.
She's gonna be playing who's the bad lady who runs the Suicide Squad? Amanda Waller, right? Yeah.
That's why I brought that up, because I saw her in that. I was like, oh, she got that money too.
Going back to the story, just like the plot in general, I think it's such a washed idea in Star Wars. of the like the apprentice that goes wrong, and
gotta find the Jedi holocron for all the new younglings.
Protect the younglings.
Yeah. Like
to me, it was the addition of like the Zepho and the Zepho temples made no sense. It went absolutely nowhere.
Yeah.
And
I was very
there was a
interested in
huge
that.
It's like they're
disconnect.
trying to give you some sort of message about what happened to this Zepho civilization in their empire and how they transitioned from a more enlightened thing to a less enlightened thing, and they destroy themselves, but like it ends up falling completely flat and going nowhere.
There's a huge disconnect between that part of the story and everything that happens on like Dathomir onward.
Because you're finding all the things to unlock the Zepho temple on Bogano.
Yeah, so it is completely disconnected.
That's the only
much.
connection. Is you're searching for a MacGuffin to unlock the other MacGuffin.
I would have preferred if it was the knife to find the specific spot on the Death Star.
That one will always get me. That now has taken on a special place in my heart. It's such a ridiculous storytelling device.
You see, the movie should have showed us the amount of times that they held it up and stood in places and it didn't line up.
Yeah, so it's like takes place 5 years after Revenge of the Sith. The Jedi Order has fallen. Leo pointing at
he said the thing.
Yeah. So the Republic has fallen. The rise of the Empire has taken place. We follow Jedi apprentice Cal Kestis. He's being hunted by the two Inquisitors, the second and ninth sisters, former Jedi, now trained Inquisitors. We find out that the second sister was the Padawan of who becomes Cal's new mentor, the Seer Junda, as we described. And yeah, like they have a history. They were master and apprentice and all that stuff. The master was captured and was tortured, and the timing in their backstory also made little sense to me. It's like she was tortured for how long exactly, and gave up her apprentice, who was then made an Inquisitor overnight or something.
Yeah.
Is what it seemed like.
Pretty much.
I was upset that taken more time. Like it's more an indictment of Seer's training of her Padawan. That
couldn't have been a good master.
That she could become an apprentice to the dark side overnight. Yeah.
I wish that the main character was Cal's master, like that alien. I forget the race.
Oh, you wanted him to be an antagonist?
He's the same race as what's his face
Zeb.
from Zeb from Rebels, who voiced by Travis Willingham. I'll add from.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's cool. But yeah, no, I wish that he was Cal. Like, I wish we got an alien protagonist rather than a human.
Oh, they're never going to do that.
I know they never would, but that would be so cool. Because imagine the force powers with that dude, and like just the fight, the combat. Yeah.
Superior race.
So, we already mentioned Breeze Nuts, the pilot of the Stinger, or the Stinger Mantis. Is the Mantis is what they call it.
Don't forget about the Night Sister. She was a very valuable and important part of the story.
She fished you. She helped stealth you onto the final mission, and then helped fish you out of a lake. But yeah, they're following the mysterious hologram messages of Jedi Master Eno Cordova. He's locked away.
Who is also weird. He he looks like he was doing Natsuri. Like
all Jedi Masters guilds were doing the Natsuri.
Yes, for sure. But he just had like a very British feel to him.
As we said in the beginning, they were doing the child grooming and trafficking.
Yeah.
And that's what this game is really about. It's about stopping the child trafficking.
No. It's about starting it again.
Well, it's about restarting it up until it's all about restarting the child trafficking up until the very end, when you realize that that's a bad thing.
Yeah.
You finally come to the realization that that's a bad thing when the Dathomiri Night Sister, Marin is her name, where she convinces you that maybe it'd be better off if we didn't search out all these kids and put them directly in danger.
I'm gonna plug. Also, cool thing is have us learn like Night Sister force powers, but nope, can't have anything unique.
Well, and another thing, and I'm gonna plug our shorts. Go check our YouTube shorts on Jedi Survivor. But in that we make the point that it would be really cool if they incorporated things like alternate storylines, and that would be a pretty cool alternate storyline at the end. Whether you decide
Yeah,
to
but only if you
start
do
it
it
up
in
again.
the old school morality way, where there's a clear red and blue decision,
Uh-huh.
and red is
Uh-huh.
obviously crush the holocron,
I mean,
don't traffic children.
I
And
mean,
the
come
only
on,
moral thing.
come on, it's Star Wars has always just been the simple binary
Yeah.
of there are only good and bad people. That's it.
And the people that, yeah, the bad group's pretty big in the Jedi's eyes.
Which let's dive in a little bit, see if we can parse out what is the ultimate message that this game and this story is trying to give us here.
Question
Ginger
child
people can be
trafficking.
Jedis too.
Sorry, Pat, what was that? Who can be Jedi?
Ginger
Gingers?
people can be Jedis too.
Being a Jedi requires no soul.
Well, I mean, we joked about it before we started recording, but we do have to say, campaign comrades say a jab that all Jedi are bastards. All Jedi are cops. That's why we say a jab. They only ever serve, to prop up institutional power and the status quo of political elites. They kind of touch on this in some back and forth. We get in the battle with the Dark Jedi, because he's not really a Sith. He's kind of
He's
on
pretty
his own
dope.
thing. Terran Malicos.
Yeah.
He was probably my favorite part.
Yeah,
he was pretty tough to beat.
Another point of they clearly had a dual saber style combat skeleton built into the game, but they wouldn't let you do it.
Can't have nice things.
I hate when games put stuff in that they don't let me use that's cool. It's what Elden Ring does so well, is I can do all the cool boss stuff.
So there's a conversation that they have before that final battle kicks off, or that battle with them kicks off, right? So Malicos, says it's over. The Jedi fell long before the purge, stifled by tradition, deafened by our past glories, blinded by endless war. And here it's you get the only minor concession that Cal and that any Jedi ever would give is that he just says maybe.
Baby.
But it's never over, Malicos. We stand here now with a chance to learn, to rebuild from our mistakes. And then based Malicos just Jedi learn. There's no future for them. How can you not see that? It's time for something new. And it's just that they tiptoe up to the line of being yeah, the Jedi were actually bad, folks. They were.
But we never
bad.
get the something new.
No, we
they
never
tease
do.
that in so much.
Because we kill him.
I mean, not even just in Fallen Order. I mean, I'm talking Star Wars as a whole.
Star Wars.
Right. No, it is a meta commentary on the property itself. You get the whole thing with, I mean, you it's always coming from the bad guys, right? It's we need to kill the past.
Yeah.
We need to move on, develop new things. And it's nope, we have to rebuild and hold on to all the bad things that brought us to this very same place of stagnation and and dread that got us to this confrontation. And
Jedi are just reactionaries.
They are say reactionaries who are dedicated to preserving the status quo, as I just said, and preserving the order, and reclaiming the their elite status. I do not see a viable way forward for so my opinions on Star Wars in general have really kind of have changed over the past decade or so, I guess.
Yeah.
And it's not until you get things like Andor, which besides having some pretty good politics itself, again, is doing something new. And it is, again, it's leaving that the baggage of the past behind us.
And The Last Jedi tried to do that, and in some ways was successful at staging something like that. And then Disney was just
said,
no,
we can't do that.
no. We're gonna go back.
You're fucking with our bag.
Yeah.
And something that Andor does that the rest of Star Wars, I think, misses purposefully, more or less, is, and Ben, you were talking about this a little bit, but Andor has a pretty, besides its good politics, does a pretty good job of showing that there isn't a binary good and bad. Like, there is some multitudes to the characters within that show and like their actions, and no one's always wholly on the good side and doing good things, and no one's wholly on, I mean, the bad side's a little bit more directly evil, but the good guys actually do have some of that. You do see some of their bad decisions, and they are portrayed in a way where you could say, well, maybe that wasn't the right choice there, and you don't get that with the Jedi ever.
I feel like we, in some sense, Star Wars always tries to have those moments and like the depth of those characters, but then they're always redeemed by upholding the status quo. And
Because
I can't
it's
truly
because
speak to
the
Endor,
enlightened
but
centrist way is the right way. We are
yeah,
not going to the extremes of either side, right? We're charting the new middle road.
and because there's always been like gray type characters. Han Solo, the Mandalorian is another one, that are like walking this line, but they always are, in the end, uh, whether they're, directly upholding the status quo or just like, towing that line of, indirectly assisting in, in their end game. So I think that's like a mark of, that is part of the Star Wars formula, and they always like tickle you with this, but then you never get, even Ahsoka becoming like a gray Jedi, or, in Clone Wars, you see multiple like gray Jedi that leave and aren't, Sith, but aren't Jedi, and there's nothing ever comes of that.
Because even that bit, they're like, yeah, they have failed to pick a side, and so,
Yeah,
and
and if they're
because of that,
not bad, if they're not necessarily bad guys, they're otherized at a minimum.
yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's just like there are, this largely, I think, sticks clear of any of that kind of messaging. It just really it tiptoes up to that line, and I think, for its story, it fails in its kind of concept. It does not go far enough to interrogate why the Jedi Order fell. It always says, like, we were betrayed.
Yeah.
We were peacekeepers. We were betrayed by those we tried to protect. No sense of accountability.
It was
No,
because they were built on a Sith temple.
they were
The Jedi temple was built on a Sith temple, and they were never truly Jedi.
It's yeah, I don't know. I find this, I was so much more positive on this game, even when I struggled with it and bounced off of it in my original playthrough. But like playing it again, I just became such a hater. Like, I struggled to find anything redeeming in this game.
Because the biggest part, and I know the reason that I enjoyed it so much the first time, and I'll go back to something Andrew had said multiple times when, Battlefront had come out, is like, I can't wait for a single player lightsaber game. Can't wait to swing a lightsaber. Like 14-year-old me is like, I want to play a lightsaber game. I want to hold a lightsaber. I want to swing it around. I want to kill people with it. And like, we got to do it. And then
Well,
like,
for $1,600 for plane tickets and one night stay at a hotel, and then an additional $200 to $500, you can go hold your own very own lightsaber that you can then strap razor blades to and kill people.
So just make the trip up
In
to San
Minecraft.
Francisco, and there are plenty of homeless people in Minecraft that you can just have your way with. Nobody
State
will
will
stop.
pay you
No,
for it.
do not
nobody
yeah.
will stop you. Nobody would
the
stop
guy
you.
the guy with the hose will just hose off the blood.
Yeah,
This is
nobody
all
would stop you.
parody, and we do not support killing homeless people at all. We actually support housing them, and that is my job.
Yeah, so they are a forgotten population that that again that the Jedi would
Would eradicate.
they say would round up and be like, oh no, you are
Your filth.
yes, you're lowering the senator's property values.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think this game's really a story about the struggle within the CIA to continue to traffic children with Jeffrey Epstein in order to gain leverage across the world, and whether or not they should do that.
Yeah, and it came out. Did it? Was
It's
Epstein?
a year before.
Yeah, he was.
It's just before.
Yeah, because that was July. And this is November.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanna rewind a little bit to talk about, step back from the actual game itself and more into its production. I When we do these episodes, I'm always looking into what was it like to work for these companies? What did the actual process look like? And so in interviews, Stig Asmussen, the game director, admitted to employing quote unquote voluntary crunch in its development.
Voluntary is doing a lot of heavy lifting.
So
how that usually works is you walk into the cubicle farm, you finger gun and point to the masses and say, hey guys, if you come in this weekend and do a whole bunch of extra work, that's part of your job.
You get it.
We'll get you
party.
pizza.
Yeah, you get a pizza
Pizza
party.
We'll buy you pizza.
I'm buying lunch.
Yeah, and if they're feeling really nice, we'll get you empanadas.
So in this interview, he said, we did something different on this game compared to what I've been involved in with other projects. Projects I've worked on in the past, they had mandatory crunches. Basically, everybody said, you've got to work these hours. And we realized that wasn't a fair and sustainable approach. And we left it up to the team. It's like, look, I think everybody carries their own responsibilities and their own tasks and takes them very seriously. So I treat them like children and say you have to be here at a certain time. It's like, that's just so ridiculous to me, because that's management being like, it's not my responsibility what you do. Like, I am completely abdicating what it is to be my role as a manager. Yeah. That's on you, because I treat you like adults.
One thing I'm curious of their pay rate, and especially their pay rate compared
to. It's probably open now. You can probably find that now.
Yeah, and but their pay rate compared to similar game developments, because one thing I've been running into, my girlfriend has actually been running into at her job is
go ahead. Sorry, I'm laughing about something else.
Okay, I thought you were laughing at the me dropping the I have a girlfriend.
So, yeah.
For all the listeners that don't.
Just making it
bragging.
Like, yes, I am in fact a sex
I'm
haver.
a sex haver. No, but she's experiencing a similar voluntary crunch where it's like, we have this project, it's tough, it's a short deadline, blah, blah, blah. It's like, but you're highly compensated, and that's why we pay you, so that you're gonna have to work these long hours. Like, oh, we compensate you well. Like, oh, remember, we compensate you well. And so it's like, it's not mandatory, but it's mandatory.
It's the double-edged blade of project-based salary.
Yeah.
What I was laughing at was just, I was skimming ahead into how this quote continues. We made the joke about that. Oh yeah, we'll get you pizza. He actually basically says that. He says,
if literally does the finger guns.
If you're going to be here these extra hours, it's your choice. We're going to support you and make sure you've got food. We're not going to tell you there are certain hours that we're going to be crunching at. You can make your own schedule, and the leads made a commitment to put in extra effort and extra hours as well to show that we're all in it together.
Pizza and a low alcohol percentage, one beer.
We don't want to loosen inhibitions too much, because then we get a whole lot of other problems.
Yeah.
we have a watered down keg of Bud Light available.
So my props to the interviewer who pushed back on this. Then they followed up saying, asking about the indirect pressure to crunch, about the unspoken rule that you're expected to put in 110%, because if you don't, you're not it's not mandatory. We're not saying you have to, but if you don't, it's going to look bad on your next review. You're not a team player.
You're not wearing your 47 pieces of flair.
Yeah, it's like, everybody else in your team worked late, but you didn't. So we're not going to go with your promotion, even though like you put in, good work. We're going to go with the person who crunched, had a mental breakdown, harassed their subordinates, and introduced 50 new bugs into our build. There none of
That's that
that's gonna
soft
happen.
pressure of like, again, I'm sure they wield the compensation against them, or just the job in general.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you
That's
said,
the
just
other
like,
thing,
yeah. Remember, you have to do this 110%. The whole team is putting in 110%. Like, you don't want to let the team down.
They probably have a system where people who come in on weekends, get to wear special armbands, and then everyone else gets called non-crunchies.
Crunchies.
And like they basically then he then has to cop to that. Yeah, the voluntary crunch thing didn't work because he still noticed that people were working too much.
Yeah, because
And
again,
it's like, oh yeah, not actually exerting your role as a manager, had an effect where people were not properly managed.
and on top of that, the idea of this being voluntary is just laughable, because if you don't do what you're supposed to do in your job and meet the deadlines you're supposed to meet, you're eventually going to get fired. So it's not voluntary. Like, if you have so much work that you
Yeah.
can't complete it, and you don't complete it on time, it's going to have ramifications on your career and the path for your job. Like, that's
That's
not
why I
voluntary
called it
then.
like a soft pressure of like, essentially gaslighting you into doing
Yeah.
the work.
Yeah, if you don't want to
Just
crunch, just don't
changing the
waste time at
marketing on
work.
it.
Don't go to
Yeah.
the bathroom. Stay at your desk. Make
Yeah.
sure you get
Wear
Yeah.
adult diapers, shit your pants, and get that
Yeah.
extra line of code in.
We've supplied you with a 5-gallon bucket with a toilet seat duct tape to it.
So I have not seen much about the production for Survivor, because it was only officially announced a couple months ago and is being released soon. Which I
Yeah,
have
it
to
was
say,
in the summer, I think.
which I have to
so.
say for their credit now, that is a marketing method that I approve of. I do not like the early announcements that, like, things get drawn out, because that is what ultimately usually results in things like crunch. It's like that we've announced this game. There is this overt pressure, even though with something like this, with its success, it was essentially all but a given that there was going to be a sequel. So it's not like this surprised anybody, but still, it helps you kind of manage expectations. Let's see if it ships though in terribly buggy mess like Fallen Order did. I don't know.
Well,
But
and I was just gonna say that's like the flip side of the coin of pushing out your marketing of it to like when it's close to done, because getting one delay like we got on this by like roughly a month, you could withstand that, and it's been the first delay that you've known of, because they didn't release it when it was just an idea in someone's head.
Yeah.
But then, are they releasing it at a point where it is done and polished, or is it just done and buggy, and they're going to work on it later? And where does that done but buggy and able to go to market slowly start to get closer and closer to a completely unfinished game going to market that we just continue to work on while people are playing?
So I guess unless anybody has any other thoughts that they want to get in, I think we can wrap the episode by asking, are you guys going to be buying and playing Survivor when it comes out? Because the things that we have seen in the marketing, it does seem like they are taking some of the complaints into consideration. Some of the things we outlined here, like, the specific example you made of Matt with the combat stances, right? That is something that they are doing. That basically, like, yeah, like they said, oh yeah, Sekiro, which we aped from, did it better, so we need to, double down and do what was done 4 or 5 years ago in a better game. But we have to like try to now iterate, quote unquote, in that way. But I don't know, have you seen enough to to make you anybody to be interested in Survivor?
I haven't crossed it
No,
off my
just
list.
play Sekiro.
I haven't crossed it off my
Modernity,
list.
embrace tradition.
I'm not gonna get it right when it comes out.
Yeah, I'll see.
If it gets like really good reviews and it's kind of, on a $10 discount in a couple months from now, maybe. Otherwise, I'll probably wait until it's largely discounted and just play it to, play it.
For me, I feel like unless it is like truly becomes a society breaking phenoms on the scale of say something like Elden Ring, where it's not just corporate reviewers with their access on the line to a big independent publisher like EA, who are just going to put out the same positive reviews that Fallen Order got, right? Like Fallen Order got good reviews, and if you're going off of that, you could then assume to pick up Survivor. So like unless there is a huge swell of public opinion that yes, this is good, they have fixed all these problems, this is a better game, I don't know that I'll ever play it. I don't know that I'll ever pick it up. I will.
Well, if one of us gets it now with Steam Family, you could always just download it, play a little bit, and then that's it.
What I am
I
figuring
value
is
my time more than that.
right. It's like it's not even the money anymore at this point. Like for something like that, it was just like what I did replaying the little bit here of Fallen Order for the podcast. It was just like this is a more than just a chore. It was actively painful. Like I can't tell you how much time I spent on the simple bit of climbing up the leg of the at that you try to take over. The jumping was so fucking
So
janky
bad.
that
Yeah.
it kept just sending me off the side, and I kept having to swim back over, climb back up. I probably spent 30 minutes on that.
Oh God.
And I did the bit where probably the most fun part of the game is when you actually take over the AT-AT and you get to shoot things with it. And then
That lasts for like
5 minutes,
3 minutes.
Not
3
even,
minutes,
yeah.
yeah.
3 minutes.
It's like I finished that bit, stepped onto Kashyyyk, talked to Saw Gerrera, and it was like, nope, that was the final straw.
Yeah, that's where I got as well.
I've got more important things to do with my time. I value myself more than this. I'm not going to bother. So I really do not see myself purchasing it. It's like it truly has to be like kind of a culturally defining inflection point, like something
But
like
for me,
Elden Ring.
the funniest part of it all was that like I didn't find any of the specific boss fights to be overly difficult till Second Sister. I found her to be annoying at best because of variation of moves she could do a command grab out of that was annoying to deal with.
Which one's Second Sister?
The
That's
final
the final
boss.
boss. That's the final boss.
Okay.
Ninth
Mostly
Sister
just
is
the
big-
command
is the
grab
big
that she could
alien.
do out of so many different attacks. That was a very annoying thing to keep track of. But like nothing else in the game combat wise really gave me trouble. It actually felt like tad easy to me on the difficulty I played on. But it was everything else wrapped around it that like
It was the jank to me. It was
Yeah.
the jank. It wasn't that like that the move sets were difficult. It was just that like I see that this is happening. And I particularly in the boss fights, I think that we made our complaints about like the lack of actual attack patterns in your basic enemies, but the bosses had recognizable patterns. And it's like I could see this and know what I'm supposed to do, but the actual input that I do is just not reliable enough for me to actually for me to do it. It was purely the jank, not about the actual skill it takes to play it.
the
It was
closest thing to a good fight the game had was Malicos.
Mhm.
And it was
Agreed.
because he had the most distinct enough moveset that it was different to fight. And that you couldn't just cheese through.
I completely agree. And he's
Right.
like an optional
No,
kind
he's a
of
story
ish.
boss.
No,
he's a story
he is?
boss. You
Okay.
you have to beat him
You
in
need
order
to
to get
beat
in order
him.
to get that little
Oh yeah.
I know
MacGuffin.
it's another MacGuffin.
You need to
thing
get the
that-
MacGuffin so that you
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
It's
No.
that's the last
You're
thing
right.
you need in order to open the temple
For-
Yep.
on Pagano.
So for me, I definitely will not be picking this up initially. I'll see what the reviews say, but on second playthrough, it just was when I was playing. It just doesn't bring any joy in the combat. Like it just is. It's way more
You could
frustrating,
button mash through.
and the jank just makes you go crazy before you really have any fun. And that's where I think they've lost me.
Yeah, and as a loot goblin, the
So
loot was
disappointing.
just
So disappointing.
doo-doo trash. And I wonder if that is like coming off of the reception of Battlefront. They were just like, fuck it. We're giving them nothing. Strip the game of all the good customization. Give them the bare bones. Here's these shitty ponchos.
And they're supposedly making exploration more worthwhile while also upping your customization options that, as far as we know, because it is a single player game, that it is not tied to microtransactions and loot boxes. But never say
Hey,
never
Ubisoft does
when
that.
it comes
I
to
just
EA.
can't wait for
Never say never.
the Survivor Battle Pass.
Yeah. It's cosmetics only. Trust me.
They'll have increased that, and it'll just be the same screen we've seen from Destiny, Suicide Squad, all these other games, where you have your loadout screen, and that'll be what they
Said
do.
the name.
I did.
All right, folks. That has been our deep dive into Jedi Fallen Order, a very frustrating endeavor, but yet also cathartic in a lot of ways, because it has kind of really fully brought me to the point where I can like move past Star Wars. Like I still had like again, not to like keep like, sucking its dick, but Andor was,
Yes.
was so good that like it made me kind of reevaluate that position. Is like, oh wow, Star Wars actually can be good again. And it's just like replaying this, it firmly has established my hater status.
Dude, my feelings are perfectly embodied by that meme I sent yesterday about the new Lord of the Rings movies. It's like, you like Star Wars, just give them a chance. No, done.
Yeah.
I don't give chances anymore. I've been hurt too much.
So I've been hurt too many times. I'm not ready to get hurt again. Thank you very much. That I think does it for Campaign Comrades, your game focused episode of the month. Be on the lookout for Mike is going to torture us some more next month with Pokemon.
Andrew, did you start?
No.
Mike, I'm almost done with the end game story stuff, but I've gotten stuck on the Giratina battle in Arceus. The multi-stage shit. It's like I haven't unlocked in order to buy max revives, and like I don't have the recipe to make them. So it's just like you're stuck in a constant loop of that he one-shots my
don't you wish you could just pay real money in game to buy?
He's just one-shots me. So like to the point where it's like I'm spending the turn trying to revive somebody to keep the battle going, and then in one
you pay
shot
$99.99, you unlock God mode for one fight.
Yeah, I may be putting it down. I may not be bothering with that.
That's
now that I've gotten to the final battle.
Yeah, that's all you needed.
Yeah.
We'll save that for the next.
Yes.
Epi.
So, folks, you can follow us and support us on Twitch at twitch.tv/Campaign Comrades. Follow us on Twitter at CampComPod.
Check out our YouTube shorts.
Check out the YouTube. I am working on. I make no promises on when it's going to come out, but I'm working on hopefully some longer videos for the YouTube. Got to get a pipeline going. But yeah, check out the YouTube Campaign Comrades on YouTube. But till then, we will we're gonna keep gaming. We're plugging away. I'm even so far ahead. I'm getting prepared for the month after next. I'm trying to see how many games I can get in that time, but there's too many games to play, folks. But we will endeavor to cover as many as we can, so that you can, I don't know, use us as your point of reference. But who knows?
Say, in a world with many games, I continue to play games from 1986.
Yeah. Okay.
Reject modernity.
But that's it. We will see you in the future. Bye-bye.
A-jab.
Yeah. Always say A-jab. All Jedi are cops. Bye-bye.
All Jedi are cops. That's why I say A-jab. Yoda kicked off the Force, wouldn't go to reality.